We're live. We are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just adjust so you can see my fanciful shirt. How are we today? Welcome in to today's Q&A Tuesday. Hi, y'all. How's everybody doing today? I'm excited for today's topic. I'm kind of hype. We got some really, really good questions today. So today's topic for Q&A Tuesday is fear of being seen and unpacking that. And this is the first, this is my second or third Q&A Tuesday. I think this is the third, but this is the first one that I challenged you guys to give me questions under a theme. And the reason that I did that is because I notice that pattern. I notice it in the questions that you ask, in the concerns that you have, in the content that you want me to talk about. There's this undertone of like, how do I get over my fear of showing up authentically, or beliefs that tell me that something bad is going to happen when I do that. So that's what we're getting into today. Hello. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm excited. Okay. So, I have 4 questions that I'm going to talk about, and y'all know I be yapping. So we're just going to see where this goes, but you are welcome to drop questions or comments in the chat, and I will take a look at those as we are talking about this topic. Let me just first contextualize a little bit what fear of being seen is, what I mean when I say that, so we can kind of have some shared language and be on the same page. So I think that when you are carrying the fear of being seen and you're experiencing it, that might not be the language that you use. Where if you don't have the language, but you have awareness of the fear, it might look like avoidance of doing something that's going to bring attention to you. It might look like making safer, more acceptable choices in your environment or in your culture. So, for example, a lot of the fear of being seen type concerns or questions I get are people who want to start their businesses or share their music or change their career. And there's a lot of concern about what's my mom, my dad, my cousin, my church, my this, my that, like, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? What if I fail and they were right? So there's a lot of this, like, it shows up as avoidance, but sometimes that avoidance is just a protective strategy for your nervous system because your body doesn't know yet that it can survive showing up and being seen authentically, because it's not a thing that you've experienced or it's not a thing that you've learned. So when I say fear of being seen in this conversation, what I'm really talking about is being authentic, and whatever that looks like for you. That could be being authentic in relationships. That might look like, setting boundaries and expressing your needs rather than keeping it to yourself and masking or swallowing your discomfort in relationships. Or that could look like I mentioned earlier, like, I want to start this business. I want to change my career. I want to lock my hair. Like, that was a decision when I used to work in a corporate environment. That was something that I was concerned about. I wasn't overly concerned because I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. But it was a thought that I had, especially because I was working in IT at the time and I was considering transferring to departments. And if you've ever locked your hair, there's a period where you're looking very transitional, I shall say. And I was like, is my appearance going to affect the way I'm perceived and affect my ability to get the job that I was going for? So there's a lot of external factors that we are trying to think through, navigate, feel through. And that's what we're talking about for this discussion. So, let's get into the questions. Now, if you see me looking off camera, I'm looking at the questions. So the first one I have is this. I know I've outgrown my current career. See, there's a career thing. I know I've outgrown my current career, but every time I think about changing directions, I freeze. I'm terrified of looking foolish or like I misjudged myself. How do I know when fear is a warning versus just conditioning? I want to challenge that question a little bit because why can't it be both? It could be both a warning and conditioning. That's not really the issue from my perspective. From my perspective, it is, what is fear signaling to me, right? The warning could be valid. The conditioning could be valid, but that's all just information to decide. It's all like about how you decide to use that information. So let me see if I can give you a concrete example. Okay, so fear being a valid warning signal. Like, let's say you mentioned that you are wanting to change your career. Your fear might be, am I actually qualified to do this thing that I want to do? And your body does not believe that you are qualified yet, or you don't feel that you are qualified yet. That could be because maybe you're not. Maybe you don't actually have enough experience to feel competent yet. But the good thing about that is that's a solvable problem. So, I'm trying to think of something from my own career that I could use as a reference for you. Maybe I'll come back to that part. Let's go to conditioning. Most likely the conditioning is a factor. So what your question is, how do I know when fear is a warning versus just conditioning? I would pretty much always include conditioning in that's a part of it. And that's also not necessarily a problem because that is unlearnable and retrainable. If you were conditioned to be afraid, you can be conditioned to be courageous. You can overcome it is maybe not the best word. Here's what I want to say. When relating to fear, you are never going to not have fear. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. If you think you're going to get to a point in your life where fear ain't there, nope. What's going to happen is you can train yourself to learn how to move and navigate life with the fear. And it becomes, like I was saying earlier, a signal. It's like, okay, there's something here in this decision that there's something that's making me feel insecure about making this decision. That does not necessarily mean stop. That does not necessarily mean this is wrong. That means let's look at the information. Do I need more training so that I can feel confident and competent? Am I feeling fear or anxious because this is not actually what I want to do? Is this just, I have been conditioned to be afraid of this and there actually isn't anything to fear? Those are not things that I can answer for you, but the excellent thing is you have the answers to those questions. You just have to sit with your fear and kind of inquire, have a relationship with your fear and inquire, why are you here? What are you trying to inform me of? When we think of fear as an enemy and something that is in opposition to us, we are distorting the signal that it's giving us and the opportunity that it's giving us to refine ourselves. Let me take a look at, because I saw some questions or some comments coming in here. Okay, I just want to keep up with that. So I would encourage, in general, I encourage, whether it's fear or any other emotion, to not think of it as an opposition to you. When your body produces an experience in the form of an emotion, that's like your car giving you, I don't know that much about cars, y'all, so I don't have the words for that. But you know, when your car gives you like an alert or a signal that there's something that you need to, like a check engine light, that's the thing, right? Check engine light. Yeah, I think so. When it gives you like a notification, something's going on under the hood, you need to look into that. That's what fear is. That's what your emotions are. And let's pause on fear, for example, because I want to show you another example with an emotion. Desire is also a signal like that. If you are feeling called toward something, and like that thing just keeps pulling at your attention. You have this dream or this goal or this thing that you want to accomplish that you've been wanting to do since you were a little kid, and you still want to do, but it's in the back of your mind. Like, that's a signal from your being saying, this is important to me. Like, what you gonna do about that? So I would love, and this is part of why I do the work that I do, for humans to recognize that our emotions are data, and to look at that data as like an invitation to become more intimate with yourself and get to know yourself better, rather than something that you need to conquer or get rid of. Okie dokie. Let's see what is my next question. Any questions on that before I continue? Because I feel like I'm hyped up. I had a very strong cup of coffee today, and so I might be talking fast. Let me know if you have any questions. Feelings are an update, defrag, update. Fear shows you where you should go. I like that. I love using technology language when it comes to the mind, because you really have so much capacity to modify your consciousness, and language is the technology to do that. All fears are taught, conditioned, and not inherent for humans. I mean, that right there, that like you didn't come as a baby being afraid of being authentic. When you were a baby, you need your diaper change, you cry. You're not like, is this going to be inauthentic of me if I cry to have my, that's not a thing. You're just like, I have a need, fix it. Okay. That's what it is. Okay. Next question. So here we go. I want to start sharing my ideas publicly, but the thought of people from my past watching me makes my nervous system revolt. I know a thing or two about that. Why is that so intense? And how do you work with that fear instead of fighting it? Okay. So 2 things stand out to me to answer your question specifically. You said, why is that so intense? The intensity of that experience is relative to how important other people's opinions of you are. So if you did not care about their opinion, if you did not value their opinion, you would not feel as much intensity. Like it might not be 0, but perhaps it would be 10%, 20% instead of 87. So to your question, why is that so intense? It is because whoever you're around, you not just value their opinion, you value their approval. And so this is showing you that losing their approval currently feels like a risk to your nervous system. That is also that's actually some really good information to look at within yourself. Because if you can answer that question, why do I feel like I need their approval in order to be safe? And actually answer it. This is not a rhetorical thing. This is not a shaming question. This is you actually looking for, what is it about their approval that makes me feel safe? If you can name that and articulate it for yourself, it begins to lose a little bit of its grip on you. So I'm going to recommend that you go to my website, BrittanyNicole.com, get my free masterclass called Reprogramming 101. It talks you through the process of my process, and this is what I use with my one-on-one clients, of deconstructing a limiting belief and installing a new belief. And it's a very sequential process of self-inquiry that I use. And the reason that I'm recommending that for you is so you can practice experiencing, acknowledging a limitation and the power in that. Like, a lot of times, I've talked about this in other videos, when we are aspiring to move past our limitations and we're using a technology like affirmations, for example, we bypass what we're really feeling, what we're really thinking, what we really believe, and we shoot for the thing that we want to believe. So I say, for example, in your question, I would not encourage you to just start telling you don't care about what people think. Like, that's not going to make you change your mind. You actually need to sit with the root of the feeling and acknowledge to yourself, I care a lot about what this person thinks. Their approval makes me feel XYZ, whatever it makes you feel. And just being able to have that level of self-confrontation and honesty with yourself and see underneath the hood, like we mentioned earlier, that will give you a little bit of wiggle room to decide, do I want to keep that feeling? Do I want this to continue to be true for me? Or am I ready to make my approval more important to myself? The other thing I will say to use in combating this is values. Now, I feel like values is a very boring conversation. So forgive me for the boringness here, but it's also extremely foundational and can help you to make faster, cleaner, more authentic decisions. So what I mean is this: if you have inherited a value that you have to have, you're supposed to be a doctor, and if you're not a doctor, you're not successful. Like, if that is the value that you were given and that you inherited, and you have currently internalized that, you internalizing it but not actually being in harmony with that is distorting your decision making. So when you try to make a choice about sharing your ideas, your decision goes, does this fit under the value of I'm supposed to be a doctor? And if it doesn't, then you are less likely to do it because you're honoring a value that's not inherent to you. So you need to go at the root and figure out, what do I actually value? Like, what do I actually stand for? And I have a resource on my Substack, IamPrettyBrilliant.com. There's a list of values there. The link is called Free Resources, and there are several free guides on that particular article. I would recommend that you take a look at the values list there. And so it will give you some language to look at what values you may have been given and to kind of shop and see, like, what actually resonates with me. What do I actually feel in harmony with? And once you are clearer on your value system, then your decision making, it's easier to, like, if you're between two things, to be like, well, does this match my value or not? I'll give you an example. I was in a business meeting last year sometime, and what the company was trying to do, I felt was deceitful. And it lined up with popular sales psychology trends and, what things that people do in their businesses to get people to buy their products. But because I don't work that way, I don't run my business that way, and I was being paid for my opinion, I said what my opinion was, which is this is deceitful, and I also think it's ineffective. Did they like the opinion? I don't know. But it wasn't difficult for me to go against the grain in that moment because I was already very rooted in what my values and my business ethics are. Let's see what comments we have. Just healed my witch wound from all the demonization and religious projection I received from my sisters. We now honor our different paths without judgment. Honoring different paths without judgment is such, like, an important skill that we really need to take with us in the future as things are becoming, as more and more conversations around energetic intelligence are becoming more mainstream. Conversations about attention, conversations about perception are becoming more mainstream. We really have to have that skill of being able to tolerate, like, how we differently perceive the world. And we're in kind of like we're in a, I feel like we're in a growing pains part of our human evolution right now. That's a conversation for another topic. Let me not go down that rabbit hole because I can stay there for a while. There was another part of your question that I wanted to answer. How do you work with, so the first part was, why is it so intense? How do you work with the fear instead of fighting it? So I answered, why is it so intense? Because you need to evaluate why you value their approval, what it means to you, why it's important to you to have that. And being able to answer that will help you to work with it instead of fighting it. Also, practically, anything that you can do, even outside of sharing your ideas publicly, that will help you to build just general courage is going to help you. So if that means right now you're too afraid to share your ideas publicly. Let's just say you're talking about being on social media, right? Right now, maybe it's too scary for you to get on camera and talk to camera like what I'm doing right now. Okay, sit your ass in your room, get on camera and talk to yourself, because that's still you practicing the skill of what it is that you're trying to do. And even that is scary, but it's a safe and simulated way for you to build your nervous system tolerance for the thing that you want to go toward, but that feels really, really big. I'm a big proponent for, this is how I work with my clients. We're going to start at the bottom of your tolerance and build it up gradually. I have a client who is working on the social media thing right now. And so originally, my challenge was, I want you to make a video and talk about your expertise for a few minutes. That was, I could tell by their reaction that was too much. So I reduced it. Okay, I want you to make a voice note talking about your expertise, because really it's building the muscle. And I think a lot of times when we are challenging ourselves to be seen, to break out of our comfort zone, to break out of the box, we think we got to start with the hardest ass thing there is. No, you don't. You need to start with whatever keeps the skill, like keeps the muscle being practiced, but that you can actually do consistently. Gonna recommend another resource, which is my very first podcast episode, which came out on Sunday. This is also on my Substack, and it's called Game Your Goals. And I talk there about my framework for accomplishing goals and how to do that in a titrated, like nervous system friendly way. Okay. Next question. Am I talking fast, y'all? Because I feel like I'm blowing through these questions. Okay. The next question. I'm afraid that if I fully show who I am, I'll lose respect, or worse, lose people. How do you stop self-abandoning just to stay palatable? You're not gonna like this. I'm afraid to lose respect, or worse, lose people. Babe, you're gonna lose people. It's gonna happen. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's gonna happen. But the catch there is, anybody who you lose in the process of fully showing up as who you are, they're not your people. They're not your people, because your real people who actually want a relationship with you, to relate with you, to know who you are inside, would not reject you bringing your interior outside. If somebody rejects you bringing who you actually are outside, they are not even in a relationship with you. They are in a relationship with their projection of you. They are in a relationship with how you make them feel. And if you become someone who, in your process of being more authentic, makes them feel differently, then it's like, well, I don't have any use for you anymore. I'll give you an example. If someone has befriended you because in their eyes you are beneath them, and they get to feel like a good person because they're saving you and they're taking care of you, And that gives them sense of self, that like they can identify who they are in reality because they have you as a mirror to make them feel big and better than themselves. Now, if you start healing and becoming more whole, and you're getting on your feet, and they can see that you no longer have that need to be saved by them. Now you're not giving them the sensation that they're relying on to feel like a human being. So you don't feel like a project to save anymore. You feel like a threat. You feel like competition to them. And they very well may be like, you know what? I don't have any use for this relationship anymore because it's not feeding my ego. And those are the type of relationships you will lose. You will lose those type of relationships. And it's going to, in the beginning, feel disorienting, unfair, unjust even. But over time, you will realize that every shift, every level up, like I call it frequency turbulence, that's proof of growth. When you start to lose the people who are connected to you simply because you feed them energetically or you boost their ego in some way, once you stop doing that, y'all aren't compatible anymore. Once you start saying, hey, I'm only available for a healthy relationship, I no longer consent to dynamics where I exist just to make you feel like a whole person. And they're like, yeah, I'm good on that. I much prefer you being an accessory to my identity. I'm not actually interested in you being a person. Get rid of those people. Let them go. Let them go. They will go, and let them. Except they are rejecting your wholeness. They are rejecting your being. Your challenge is to accept your rejection and to see it for what it is. They do not want you to be a being. They want you to be an investment property, okay, and an accessory to their identity, and you are no longer useful to them in that capacity, and that is a benefit for you. It won't feel like it at first, but it absolutely is. So other part of your comment was, how do you stop self-abandoning just to stay palatable? My advice to you is going to be, let's change your language here a little bit. You're asking how do you stop self-abandoning? I think that's too much pressure. If you hold yourself to the expectation that you need to immediately stop, it's going to feel like something you can never do completely. And breaking a habit is not that clean. Like, think about nicotine patches and nicotine gum, right? Like, if you're a cigarette smoker, you have those, what do they call it? What's the word for it? I can't think of the word right now, but they have those tools that kind of gradually wean you off of it, because when your body is used to having a certain dose of a thing and it all of a sudden doesn't have it, you can freak out. And that might not be a sustainable way for you to break the habit. It might be, in your case with self-abandoning, it might be healthier for you to not focus immediately on stopping self-abandoning, but noticing when you do self-abandon. My first goal for you would be, let's bring awareness to when you do self-abandon so you can start to develop some pattern recognition about that. That's a sustainable way to break the habit of self-abandoning, rather than just being like, I need to stop this now. Because you might not. Guess what? I won't say that I find myself self-abandoning often anymore, but it has been a process, even after becoming aware. Okay, this is my tendency to do that. There's this process of like becoming more discerning, making mistakes, learning from them, iterating. And you refine your ability to stop self-abandoning over time. But that does not happen all at once. And if you expect yourself to stop all at once, every time you self-abandon, you're going to beat yourself up. And that's not a good system for your brain to hold an expectation of I need to absolutely stop this thing that I was taught to do and that I've been doing my entire life. Let's not do that. Let's bring awareness to when we self-abandon and give yourself permission to refine your awareness and break that habit over time. Gradually reduce your self-abandonment rather than stopping. Okay. Let's see what we have. We have some comments about Jesus. I am not sure what that has to do with what we are discussing at the moment. I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay. What if I finally let myself be seen and it turns out I'm not actually special or impressive? Ooh, I like this question. We're going to get into that. Okay. How do you move forward without needing external validation to be safe? Let me just break this apart so I can remember to split this in two. So what if I finally let myself be seen and it turns out I'm not actually special or impressive? That is such a confession right there. I'm going to call you out. That's a confession right there. What you're saying is, I need to be special. I need to feel special. I need to feel impressive. And this is not, I'm not saying this to shame you for your need to be special or impressive. I am saying it to bring awareness to your need. That's information. Why do you feel that? And also, this is also an unfair expectation that you're putting on yourself. If I finally let myself be seen, that to me says, I haven't done it before. I don't have experience with this. This is a new thing that I'm trying to do. And then you're holding this expectation that you need to be special, impressive, and excellent at this thing you've never done before. Huh? Where'd they do that at? No, this is kind of the same advice as the last question, which is you're putting too much pressure on yourself. You're putting an expectation on yourself that isn't fair to your nervous system. And there's no need to be ashamed of that because likely you were conditioned to do that. But I want to bring it to your awareness this way so that you can see, I don't actually need to do that to myself. I don't actually need to put unfair expectations on myself to, let myself be seen and be at the top of my game. I think that, let me see if I can word this. This is loosely forming in my brain. Let me see if I can word this clearly. There is some fear around being seen in general. But I think the deeper fear is being seen while trying, like being seen while being awkward, being seen while not having it figured out. And that's fair. It's just fair to feel awkward the first time you do something. I have a video on my Instagram and TikTok. I believe it's on YouTube too, if you're watching us on any of those platforms, which is how to alchemize awkwardness. Because it is really unfair to yourself to start a new thing and expect to not be awkward. Like that has an underlying expectation of perfectionism. Why would you expect yourself to be great at something that you're doing the first time? And I'm going to challenge you to look into, where did you get that from? Who told you? Who taught you? Who expected you to be perfect? Because that is whose value you're obeying. Remember we talked about values earlier in this conversation? You have inherited somebody's value of unrealistic perfectionism, which does not allow you to be seen trying, does not allow you to be seen learning, does not allow you to be seen awkward. And rather than even focusing on the struggle with being seen or even the practice of being seen, maybe it would be good for you to go and evaluate who taught me my perfectionism program. Where does that come from? And what was the relationship with the person that taught me that I needed to be perfect? What was their relationship with perfection? And did that benefit them? Like, what I want you to do is look at the pattern so you can take it out of you. This is an opportunity actually for you to look at the judges that are in your head, the laws that you were given that you need to obey, and how to operate your humanness, and separate them from, this is what I inherited, this is what I was taught, this is my conditioning. And now that I see it, I can distance myself from it, and I can choose for myself, how do I want to proceed? I have a comment here. This is a good one. I thought I was afraid of being seen, but I am just afraid of being misunderstood, judged, misinterpreted. Yeah, that is very relatable. What I want to say is, in the process of becoming more visible in whatever way that looks like, whatever shape, I need some water, whatever shape that takes for you, there's a little bit of a thick skin required, and you're not going to have it immediately. So something that would be beneficial to accept is, I'm going to need to up my tolerance for discomfort. I'm going to need to up my tolerance for not being read accurately, and sit with why that feels intense for you. And what I can say from having done that myself, so I have taken my own body through the experience of that discomfort of being misread or not understood or judged. Over time, that intensity lessens. And that is how you know that you have built capacity. That is how you know that you have built energetic range. But it's the on-ramp of building that comfort with discomfort that a lot of people don't push through, because it is a push. Like, there's no, I will tell you no lie. There is no nice, cozy way to get comfortable with discomfort. One thing I will say counteracts it, and this is me speaking from experience. When I first started, I started a podcast several years ago that was just like my personal project. And it was really just an exercise of me expressing myself. I had no real intentions for it. It was just, it was a thing that I was doing because I was trying to get back into my creativity. The next hurdle for me was getting on camera. And it actually took me a year to build up the courage to start my YouTube channel. Like, I would record videos and they didn't see the light of day. And so there really is this like on-ramp of building comfort with the discomfort. But at some point, it's just a choice that you have to make to sit through it, to allow yourself to feel the intensity. My recommendation is to not bite off too much intensity at once, but to gradually progress, almost like you're working out. Like, if you were going to the gym, you're not going to try and deadlift 500 pounds immediately. Maybe you pick up a kettlebell, you know? Is there another question I have? Hold on. Okay, yes, there is one more question we have here, which is, how do you move forward without external validation to feel safe? Let me think about that, because I feel like my question is a little bit two-part. I'm going to start with the first thing that comes to my mind, which is, there isn't anything inherently wrong with external validation. Like, you need degrees of external validation. We are social creatures, and there is I'm saying this as a person who wishes this weren't the case. I wish that you needed zero external validation. It is beneficial for you to have. However, I would say the issue is prioritizing it over your internal validation. So if your question is how to move forward without needing it, I wouldn't say that there is a without needing it. I will say you need to develop a relationship with your own validation, and that needs to be your priority. If your internal validation is not your priority, that's how you get in people-pleasing patterns. That's how you end up in a life where everyone else is satisfied with how you make them feel and what you're doing for them, but you feel dissatisfied and empty and drained. So, without knowing you, it's going to be difficult for me to tell you exactly how to build your internal validation system. But like I mentioned earlier, going back to values, that's like ground zero. So if you can identify to yourself your moral compass, the things that maybe let's do three. Pick for yourself 3 values that really embody what you believe is correct. Like, is correct the word I want to use? I don't know if correct is the right word. Just pick 3 values that really resonate with you, that make sense to your mind, that work in your logic system, and start trying to make decisions and evaluate your decisions on, am I honoring this value or not? And that is going to give you like the starter seeds to developing a strong sense of internal validation. When you have a strong sense of internal validation, that actually gives you space to allow external validation, or not to allow. When you have a strong sense of internal validation, that gives you space to evaluate external validation. So someone can invalidate you, and you can say, you know what, we don't have the same values, so I don't really care if, like the example that I gave earlier of me and that business decision. That company, their number one thing was selling and making profit. That's what they value. I don't value that. Like I value making money and making profit, but I also value interconnection. So I'm not going to do something that feels disingenuous, dishonest, or deceitful, because not just because it's not ethical, but because to me it's not sustainable. It's stupid. It's actually a stupid business decision to put out marketing material that is deceitful. You're reducing the trust of your people. And that just, to me, as an intelligent buyer, that just says you don't really trust your products. Like, you can't really sell without, you got to manipulate to sell. You don't really know what you're doing. I don't really trust your product. You don't really trust your product. And to me, like, sustainability is one of my values. So in that conversation, as I'm thinking about how do I respond to this moment, I'm checking, does this promote interconnection? Is this sustainable? Is it honest? Okay, well, no, then we're not compatible. And it takes time to cultivate an anchored sense of internal validation, but you can definitely start with your values. And as a reminder, I have a list of values on IamPrettyBrilliant.com, which is my Substack / new podcast. If you check out the free resources article, that list of values will be there. I would recommend to check that out. Okay. Yes, so that was my last question. I love these questions, y'all. Thank you for submitting these questions. Going forward, I'm going to continue doing Q&A Tuesdays. Let me know some themes that you guys would like to have me talk about, because I think it feels more valuable to me to have a theme than just like random questions. Because I like to keep with social media, I'm kind of using it as like a visual library. So I like to keep topics together and organized. So let me know some themes that you have questions on, I always look at the trends and I go from that. What else do I want to share with you? So a couple of things. If you are here and you have not gotten a copy of my free masterclass, Reprogramming 101, please don't play yourself. It is a very, very good mental tool for understanding how to modify your mind, how to change your programming in a way that is not just in your mind, but mind and body. So get access to that at BrittanyNicole.com. This is also, it's very easy to understand. Like, I animated the course and I love like whiteboard animations. So yes, check that out. If any of this is not just resonant for you, if what I'm talking about, this process of, okay, I'm trying to bring my inner self out. I have a blueprint that this world needs. I have a message that I need to bring out to the world. I have a business. I have an idea. I have a vision. I am looking for the people who have clarity on what their mission is, but what they don't have is enough courage to get it out, because they're stuck in the what happens if I do this? What happens if I fail? What if, what is my mom going to say? What are the people in my life going to say? That's who I'm here to serve. My mission is facilitating identity death. Identity death. I'm going to say it that way because it sounds extreme, because that's what it feels like. And if you are in a place where you're like, I know it is time for me to make a shift, my road is splitting and I have to make a decision between one or another, but I am scared to do that. I'm looking for you. Send me a message and we can talk about getting you some support, how I can walk you through that process. I have done it many times myself, and this is what I do for other people. It's kind of like, I feel like an identity midwife a little bit. And it's my favorite thing in the world to do. So if you are in that place where you are ready for that deep level of transformation, send me a message and we can talk about what's next for you. I also have a host of books and courses and tons of free content. If you're not in the place where you have clarity yet and you're still like discovering what am I here to do? What do I want to create? If you're like trying to get back to yourself, take advantage of those resources. That's why that is there. That is there for you. Okay. I think I have said all that I can say for the moment. Any other questions for me before we wrap up? I'll give you a few. Oh, you know what? There was, okay. I just had a little bonus. I had a little bonus thing come in my mind before we go. Nobody asked for this. This was not a question, but I was just thinking about, as I was getting prepared for this conversation, I was thinking about when I was in middle school, and there used to be this thing where we didn't have social media then. What we had was these little reports that would come out where the boys, they would write the girls' names on this piece of paper and they would rank them. And like, that was my first experience with being externally evaluated by my peers. And I was like a consistent 6, 7. If my nephew was here, he would do that stupid 6, 7 thing that's stuck in my head. Anyway, I was a consistent 6 and 7 on the report, and that pissed me off. And first of all, that was very toxic. If anybody who happened to go to middle school with me is watching this, F you, okay? That was very toxic and very traumatizing. But my reaction to that was actually to start playing with fashion more. So this is the bonus. I'm going somewhere with this. This is the bonus information. Developing a personal style, I think, is also a very helpful tool in feeling more comfortable with being seen. I wore this shirt today on purpose because this is a shirt that it has like fries and burgers and like stupid shit on it. And I bought this shirt when I was working in a corporate environment, and I was practicing like getting out of that 9 to 5 corporate boring ass look and showing up more as who I am in a workspace. And I was like, this shirt is very unexpected, and it's professional in that it's still like a button down shirt. There's nothing actually wrong with it. There's nothing inappropriate or vulgar about it. It's just unexpected. And so I'm saying this to say a fun way that I have found to conquer the fear of being seen is to use your fashion sense, use your personal style, or develop a fashion sense and develop a personal style as kind of like an armor. So when I was in middle school, once those stupid ass reports started coming out, I started like developing a way of expressing myself with my clothes to make a statement. And the statement really was fuck you. That was a statement. But it was a statement that made me feel more empowered. And my sense of style is still kind of like that. Like when I show up in a space, I'm wearing the shit you don't expect me to wear. Like one time, y'all, I wore a sequin dress to church. Okay, that's who I am. So, fashion is a really fun way to play with your fear of being seen. And think of it not just as like vanity, but as communication. You are able to, especially if you're an introvert, you can communicate who you are with what you wear without saying a word. And one of my mentors is Lauren Messiah. She has an excellent book on style and developing your own sense of style. I will tag that in the captions so you can take a look at her work. But that I think that's a useful tool as well. So that's all I have to say on this Q&A Tuesday. I thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.